Today, I'll be discussing an action, mystery, and sci-fi film from 2020 titled Boss Level. Spoilers are ahead, so be cautious. The story follows Roy Pulver, a retired Delta Force soldier who is currently reliving the 139th version of the exact same day. He's trapped in a time loop that resets each time he dies. Having gone through the day so many times, Roy has memorized the day's pattern. Every morning at 7 a.m. a man breaks into his apartment to kill him and the woman he spent the night with. Shortly after, a helicopter hovers outside his window, with a gunman who shoots the apartment until it explodes. Roy knows the exact steps to avoid this danger, leaping out of the window to land on a truck filled with sand, a feat he had missed 22 times before finally getting it right. Afterward, he hijacks a car and drives away, evading two more assassins in a minivan. He doesn't know their real names, so he refers to them as Pam and Esmeralda. They chase him and shoot at him throughout the city, but Roy knows how to evade them as long as he doesn't get distracted and remembers to dodge the bus. Other assassins are after Roy, including Guan Yin with her sword, Kaboom with his bombs, Smiley who impales him with a lance, and a man Roy dubs Roy No. 2. Occasionally Roy manages to kill some of them, but it's always in vain as the others eventually catch and kill him. Roy suspects his ex-wife, Gemma, might have the answers he needs to escape the loop. When he contacts her office, her boss, Colonel Clive Venter, informs him she died in an accident. Reflecting on the day before the loop began, Roy remembers visiting Gemma at Dino Laboratories. She mentioned working on a machine that could unmake time and space and warned it could destroy the planet if misused. She also gave Roy a birthday present and told him to remember the word Osiris. After reliving this memory, Roy finally opens the present, discovering a book titled I Set and Osiris, with a note from Gemma that reads, "Time waits for no man." This distracts Roy, causing him to forget the necessary steps to avoid the assassins. Roy eventually realizes there's a tracker on him, likely placed by a dental hygienist named Alice, who was part of a trap set by Ventor. After numerous attempts, Roy successfully removes the tracker, sets a trap for the assassins, and kills them. During these repeated loops, Roy also learns that Gemma designed the time machine, the Osiris Spindle, to reset the day one last time if he enters it. Believing he now has enough information to save both Gemma and their son Joe, Roy confronts the final challenges, including a fierce battle with Venter and his assassins. Roy drives to the laboratories and tries to smash through the door with the car, but he crashes and is shot by Brett afterward. A series of loops follow, with Roy trying various plans to sneak into Dino, including sending his car with bombs and pretending to be Roy No. 2. Stealing Roy No. 2's ID allows him to get inside, but it takes several attempts for Roy to learn all the tricks to avoid the guards and security cameras. When he finally figures out how to sneak weapons inside, the guards are no longer a problem, but his next challenge is Guan Yin, whose sword-fighting skills are too advanced for Roy to counter with simple tools. During one of these speeches, Roy learns the project's name, the Osiris Spindle. He realizes two things: Ventor doesn't know it's functioning, and Gemma deliberately put Roy into the loop so he could become Osiris and stop Ventor's plans. Empowered by the knowledge that Gemma still believed in him, Roy embarks on a new series of loops with a fresh plan. After following his usual routine up to removing the tracker at the diner's bathroom, Roy approaches Dai Feng and asks her for sword lessons. Intrigued by Roy, she agrees to teach him. After thanking her for her lessons, Roy sneaks into Dino again. This time he confronts Guan Yin with a sword instead of guns, and easily counters all her moves. Teasing her by cutting off her ponytail, Roy then stabs her with her own sword. Brett and Ventor arrive, but Brett quickly dies when Roy stabs him in the forehead with the sword. Roy and Ventor engage in a fistfight, and when Ventor attempts to grab a gun, Roy recovers his sword and nails Ventor's hand to the floor, explaining that no one should play God and rewrite history. The past should be left as it is, so we can learn from it. After killing Ventor, Roy rushes back to the mall, only to discover he's too late. His son is dead. This has likely happened many times during all the loops he has endured. As Roy struggles against the police who won't let him approach Joe's body, a bright light appears on the horizon, the world's end, just as Gemma had warned him. Roy concludes that Gemma is dead because he left her and never called her back when she asked for help, and now their son is involved too. With the world ending anyway, Roy sees no point in doing anything, so he spends the next several loops in an apathetic state, allowing the assassins to kill him repeatedly. One morning, however, the violence finally jolts him out of his apathy, and Roy decides to make the most of the time he has. He returns to the mall and picks up Joe, spending the day with him playing video games and having lunch. He repeats this every loop until the world ends and the day resets again. Roy wants to tell Joe that he is his father, but is too afraid to do so. During loop 249, Roy brings up Gemma's work, and Joe reveals that he spoke to her early in the morning after she didn't return home. This shocks Roy, who always thought she was killed during the night, prompting him to start a new plan to see if he can save her. After resetting the day, Roy sneaks back into the laboratories and shoots Ventor and Brett while demanding answers. Brett confesses that they were trying to figure out what Gemma did to the Osiris spindle because she sabotaged it, making it impossible to control the chain reaction she initiated. Watching the security cameras, Roy discovers the exact time of Gemma's death, 14 minutes after he wakes up. Determined to save her, Roy shoots himself to reset the day and tries again, even though he only has 14 minutes to do so. As always, he kills the first assassin, but this time he alters his routine by jumping directly from the window into the helicopter. After kicking out the gunman, Roy threatens the pilot and orders him to fly to Dino as fast as possible. Upon arrival, Roy takes the gunman's machine gun and sneaks into the building, using the weapon to kill all the assassins waiting outside the door. Roy swiftly kills both Brett and Ventor before reuniting with Gemma. She asks him how many attempts it took to save her, and Roy lies, saying it was only one, but Gemma sees through the lie when Roy begins telling her all the things he has learned about Joe. He reassures her that Joe is safe, and no assassins are after him. Gemma explains that there's no way to stop the spindle, only to restart it. She designed the missing mass inside the machine to match Roy's DNA, so if he enters the spindle, the day should reset for the last time, and time would return to normal. If time resumes and Roy dies, he will be gone for good, but he believes he has learned enough to save both Gemma and Joe. After sharing a final kiss with Gemma, Roy enters the Osiris spindle and waits for the machine to use him to hopefully reset the day one last time. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more movie recaps.